Hello, everybody. Welcome to
The
ooh,
sixth installment of
of
the TAPES
Tapes podcast.
podcast.
I'm Jaden Calderon,
And I'm Anthony Santos.
and this unit is
Wait, what is this unit called again, Jaden?
energy resources and consumption.
Let me see. So, this unit is Unit 6 titled Energy Resources and Consumption. And this unit of AP accounts for 10 to 15% of the total exam weighting.
Now, what does that mean, Anthony?
Jaden, I'm going to tell you. I don't know how many times I'm going to tell you this, but I really don't know what that means. All I know is that it's a percentage and it's on there. So
Okay.
awkward.
So, in this unit, we will focus on identifying the differences between non-renewable and renewable energies.
Mm-hmm.
Then we will also learn how to examine the trends in energy consumption between developed and developing countries and
Mm-hmm.
how fossil fuels are the most widely used source of energy globally.
Yes.
After that, we will learn how the increase of reliance developing countries have on fossil fuels as they become more developed. We will
Yes.
also discuss the factors that influence that what energy sources people use.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next unit in this, not unit,
The
but
next topic
lesson,
in this unit, yeah.
we will identify and examine different types of fuels like
Mm-hmm.
wood, charcoal, and peat, and the three different types of coal like lignite, bituminous, and anthracite.
Mm-hmm.
And then following up in this lesson, you will learn how crude oil can be recovered from tar sands, and the
Mm-hmm.
cleanest fuel and cogeneration.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will also examine how fossil fuels are made into specific fuel types.
Mm-hmm.
Following up in Unit 6.4, you will learn how to describe the global patterns of distribution of natural energy sources, and as well as the geological conditions under these sources form, which these sources form. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it's 6.5. You will learn how to examine the process of combustion of fossil fuels and discuss how burning them allows the production of electricity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next topic you will discuss is um, the variety of methods humans use to extract fossil fuels from Earth for the generation of energy and electricity.
Mm-hmm.
And you will learn how to explain the process of hydrological fracturing in more detail and discuss the effects of this process in the air, land, and water resources.
Okay.
And then for the next two, not next two, for the next unit, you will learn
Topic.
how to discuss how nuclear energy generates electricity and other outputs of nuclear power generation. And you will also learn how to discuss the environmental issues caused by radioactive isotopes and the disposal of nuclear waste left over from the generation of nuclear energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will be followed up by examining the half-life of radioactive elements, and
Mm-hmm.
case studies of past nuclear accidents will be discussed and analyzed. And
Mm-hmm.
then in 6.7, you will focus on the use of biomass in developing countries and the environmental cost associated with their use. And then
Wow, Jaden, you're
following
going
that
really
up,
in depth. Is
right, we will investigate the advantages and disadvantages of using biofuels as a substitute for gasoline. And then for 6.8, about solar energy, you will identify the three types of solar energy transformations and explore can be ooh, how each can best be used to meet global energy needs. Oh nah. And then following up in this unit, we will investigate trends in data for solar energy in order to draw conclusions. The next unit, 6.9,
mm-hmm.
you will examine how moving water can be used to produce electricity in reservoirs, rivers, and oceans.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will also learn how to investigate the advantages and disadvantages of using hydroelectricity from an economic and environmental angle.
Mm-hmm.
Then 6.10, you will learn how to examine electricity. Ooh, you will learn how to examine electricity.
Mm.
Ooh, whoa,
Oh,
cut that.
brother.
You will learn You will examine how electricity is generated from geothermal energy and the environmental consequences of its use.
Mm-hmm.
In 6.11, you will learn how to examine how hydrogen fuel cell functions to produce electricity from hydrogen and oxygen.
Or hydroelectric power.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you will learn how to discuss the viability of hydrogen as a fuel source based on its environmental and economic impacts. And then for 6.12, we will detail the energy conversion in producing electricity from wind and discuss the consequences of using wind energy. And when I say we, I mean Miss Antalon. Um, and then after that, the last unit, 6.13, you will discuss methods for conserving energy on an individual scale and from a larger policy perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And in this And then after that, we will focus on accurately performing calculations to find rates of energy use and conservation. And that's all for that unit.
So Jaden, back on what you were talking about, I noticed some units that were on the AP exam this year, and I feel like we should mostly talk about like the energy sources,
Yes.
like the
Like nuclear.
non-renewable and renewable energy sources.
So,
So,
what would you classify as how would you
I actually
define a
have them.
renewable
I actually
source?
have them on my slides here. One of them that was on the AP exam was nuclear energy, and nuclear power is generated from a chemical reaction, also known as fission. And what you also need to know is that energy is created in a method similar to like other fossil fuels, so it is a non-renewable source. And there are also positives and negatives to using nuclear power. And then I also noticed that you talked about
But wait, before you continue, how would you define a non-renewable source?
a non-renewable source is basically like it's a fossil fuel that
Not
there's
necessarily
not
fossil
a fossil
fuel,
fuel, not necessarily, but
but
like
that's like a
it's a
non-renewable
it's
source.
like a item that there's not an unlimited amount of. Like let's say a renewable source, wind energy. There's always gonna be wind,
Hmm.
like unless unless the wind like unless
Unless the wind decides to cut its mic.
literally we're always there's always gonna be a renewable source of
Hmm.
wind, but a non-renewable source like coal, there's not a lot of like um
There's not a lot of coal.
well there's not that there's not a lot,
There's only like a
but
limited
like
amount.
it takes so
It takes a
it
long
takes
time for
so
coal to
long for
form.
coal to form
Yeah,
that it will be considered a non-renewable source after we use like a lot of it,
yeah, because we'll have to like wait
like
millions of
millions of
years.
years. Yeah.
So continue with what you were saying.
So Jaden, I noticed that you were also talking about hydroelectricity, and hydroelectricity is the energy made from moving water, and how this works is that kinetic energy of the moving water can be transferred into electricity. And this is when like water falls under the force of gravity through a turbine, and the kinetic energy of water converts kinetic energy of the turbine that's spinning into like energy, into like actual electricity itself. And the spinning turbine causes the generator to turn, and in doing so, the kinetic energy of the turbine is converted into kinetic energy of magnets and wire combinations inside the turbine itself. And the motion of wire and magnet converts the kinetic energy into electrical energy, and the electricity flows from the dam, like where the
Hmm.
hydroelectric like where the process takes place, to like the grid, to like an electrical
Yeah.
grid. And sources where you could find like this source of renewable energy is dams and reservoirs, rivers and tidals. Oh brother.
Hmm.
And then I also noticed that you talked about geothermal energy. Now, wasn't that one of the FRQs?
What?
Geothermal energy, if I remember, or it was like one of the questions, or it
Yes,
wasn't.
it was. It was one of the
It was
questions.
the FRQ, or was it
Yes, it
like
was
actually?
geothermal. Yeah,
Um,
it was a question.
so and geothermal energy is it's like a limited, but it's a very powerful it's a very powerful source of energy.
So what you're
Um,
gonna see in this unit is that there
okay,
are.
let me continue.
Oh, you're still going? Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry. I didn't know that.
and geothermal energy is made when the heat from the Earth's interior, like the Earth's core, the Earth's outer core, like the crust,
Uh-huh.
um, and that can like the heat from that can be transferred into energy. And how that works is that water is pumped deep underground, and heat from the earth converts that water, like it heat the water that's pumped into the earth's core, not core, like into the earth's interior, is heated up, and it turns into something, like it turns into steam.
Uh-huh.
And the rising steam turns a turbine, like how we just talked about with hydroelectric energy, but
Hmm.
like it's a different. I think it's a different kind of
Kind of like how
turbine.
you turn your doorknob to go into your house to get to your fridge to pull the fridge open, and then you pull out the food.
Kind of how you're always pulling on that motherfucking knob. But anyways, and then the rising steam turns a turbine, and that turbine turns a generator, creating an electrical current. But there are consequences to geothermal energy. There well, a consequence, like a positive consequence of geothermal energy, is that it is a reliable and abundant source in some places of the earth, and you don't like there's no fossil fuel emission. I'm not fossil fuel. There's no carbon dioxide emissions, but the negative consequences of geothermal energy is that um cheap and efficient geothermal is limited because it's like a really hard process to like make in the first place, and hydrogen sulfide emissions, which is also bad for the environment. And then lastly, oh, it disappeared on me. You talked about wind energy. Now, wind energy is a great type of renewable energy source. And how wind energy works is that kinetic energy of the wind can be transferred into electricity, and this occurs when like the wind turns a turbine inside of like the what's it called, like those really big tall.
Wind turbine.
That's what it's called, a wind turbine. Or wind turns a turbine, which turns a generator, which produces an electrical current. There are positive and negatives to wind energy. Positive, the
The positive
positives
is
is
like it never
that
runs out,
it's a
but then
renewable source, yeah,
but then
and it's also a very clean
yeah, it
energy
doesn't
source.
cause any.
Like there's not that much drawbacks to it at
Yeah,
all.
and then but then something bad could be like you like wind is unpredictable. So if there's not enough wind,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
right here, location specific. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
yeah,
like not every place is gonna get the same amount of wind.
hmm,
And another thing is that like birds and bats,
yeah,
like they could fly into these winds and then they could
yeah,
die.
yeah, suicide.
Suicide.
Anyways, um, what do you think the hardest part about this unit is?
I feel like what you like the hardest part is memorizing all of the like the non-renewable and renewable energy sources and how they work.
And the drawbacks and well, not the drawbacks because if you really think about like like what these things are, you'll know like the
Mm-hmm.
drawbacks. Like for example, like what's it called? Radiate? No, what is it called? Nuclear energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the drawbacks are like human health and like it's not and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like for coal, like the CO2 emissions and stuff like that. Like that stuff is like easy to like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But what do you think is like the easiest thing to do in this unit?
The easiest thing in this unit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the pros and cons of the nuclear power. Um.
What do you think the easiest thing? Well, what I think is the easiest thing in this unit
Mm-hmm.
is calculating your own what do you call it? Calculating your own individual like um your energy conserve like conservation.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty simple. It's just like a website, and you put in like all the stuff that you like use and how many people are in your house and stuff like
That
that.
was the one that I was talking about on Unit 5. The like 2 point something Earths. Is that not what you're talking about?
That is what I'm talking about. But that
Yeah.
was in this unit.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Whoopsies. Awkward.
Anywho, um, how do you think you did on the the APES exam for this? Like for the topic?
There was definitely some questions about it. Like I remember seeing some questions,
Do you think they
especially
were
about geothermal.
difficult, the
No,
easy,
as long as you like memorize all the,
and how
as I
they
said before,
work,
the renewable and non-renewable
and like
resources,
how they work
how
and
they
stuff
work.
like
Yeah,
that?
I feel like that's all you need to
But
like.
like most of them work the same. Like it's mainly
Yeah,
just like
most
heat
like.
transferring like
Mm-mm.
things into steam, and
Yeah,
then that like turns a generator and boom,
like
your power.
fossil fuels, nuclear
Yeah,
power, solar energy,
but
hydroelectric energy, geothermal
we
energy,
are crunched on time.
wind energy.
We are crunched on time, so thank you for joining us in this week's installment
Of
of Tapes.
tapes.
I'm Jaden Calderon,
And I'm Anthony Santos.
and that was the end of the sixth unit. Bye
Yes.
bye.